The rain-slicked streets of Portland blurred into a watercolor nightmare as I stumbled out of the rusty anchor, my phone slipping from numb fingers like a confession I couldn't take back. "I miss you," I'd slurred into the void, meant for Mom's steady voice on the other end. But it was Jordan's number that lit up the screen, his name a ghost I'd buried 2 years ago under layers of denial and bad decisions. Now, as thunder cracked overhead, my heart hammered with the terror of what I'd unleashed. Not just a wrong number, but a plea that could drag us both back into the fire we'd barely escaped. I was Alex Rivera, 28, non-binary and fraying at the edges like the sketchbooks I abandoned in my tiny studio apartment overlooking the Willamette River. Life in this foggy corner of Oregon had become a grind of freelance graphic gigs and late-night therapy sessions, chasing the high of creation while dodging the low of remembering. Jordan Hayes, 30, black, trans, with that shaved fade that used to brush my cheek like a promise, had been my anchor once, until he wasn't. We'd met at a queer art crawl in southeast Portland, two souls colliding amid spray paint murals and pulsing indie beats. He was a barista then, slinging lattes at a hole-in-the-wall cafe, his dark eyes holding stories of transition and triumph that made my own chaos feel survivable. I fell hard. We built something fierce, lazy Sundays trading poetry over vegan pho, his hand steady on my thigh during protests for trans rights downtown. But love like ours, it burned bright and brittle. My insecurities clawed at him, his past traumas whispered doubts into our bed, and one screaming fight under the Hawthorne Bridge shattered it all. He left for Big Sur to find himself again, and I let him, because holding on felt like drowning us both. That night, the bar had been my escape hatch from another rejection email, the kind that chipped away at the artist I'd sworn I'd become. Tequila shots with Lena Vasquez, my ride-or-die best friend. A 27-year-old Latina firecracker with a pixie cut and tattoos snaking up her arms, turned into a haze of laughter and regret. "Call your mom," she'd urged, shoving my phone at me as the clock ticked past midnight. "Tell her you're not okay." Mom was back in Tucson, her voice the one constant in my nomadic, queer mess of a life. But fingers fumbling, autocorrect's cruel joke, and suddenly it was ringing, Jordan's line, dormant in my contacts like a landmine. "I miss you," I'd breathed, the words tumbling out raw and unfiltered, sloshed with booze and buried ache. Silence stretched, then his voice, low, gravelly, laced with that California sun he'd chased. "Alex? Jesus, it's 2 a.m. Panic surged, but the dam had broken. I didn't mean, fuck, I thought it was Mom. Forget it. But he didn't. You don't call unless the world's ending. Where are you? I hung up, heart in my throat, but the damage was done. By the time I unlocked my apartment door, keys jangling like accusations, my phone buzzed. A text. I'm coming back. We need to talk. Don't run this time. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving, coffee bitter on my tongue as I paced the creaky floors of my loft. Lena burst in at 8 a.m., her curly hair wild from the jog over, eyes narrowing at my disheveled state, oversized hoodie swallowing my frame, dark circles framing hazel eyes that hadn't slept. "Spill, Rivera. You look like you saw a ghost and invited it to brunch." I collapsed onto the thrift store couch, spilling the whole mortifying saga. She listened, legs crossed on the coffee table, her expression shifting from amusement to that fierce protectiveness she'd honed since we bonded over shared stories of unsupportive families at a Portland Pride mixer. "Jordan? The one who ghosted for Big Sur? Girl, NB, whatever, that's a grenade you just pulled the pin on." I groaned, burying my face in a pillow that still faintly smelled like his sandalwood cologne from the last time he'd crashed here. It was an accident. But what if it's not? What if I do miss him? Lena's laugh was sharp, but her hand squeezed my knee. "Then you face it, mi amor. You've been sketching ghosts for months. Those abstract pieces of fractured hearts and rainy bridges? They're all him. But Jordan's got his own baggage. Remember how he shut down after that transphobe at the cafe cornered him? You can't fix that for him. She was right. Our breakup wasn't just one fight. It was the slow poison of my fear. Fear of commitment in a world that chews up queer love like it's disposable. I'd pushed him away, convinced I was too broken for his light. And he'd run, not because he didn't love me, but because staying meant risking the stability he'd fought for post-transition. By noon, the buzz came again. Not a text, a call. I stared at the screen, Jordan's face from our last photo together. Us grinning at a food cart pod, his arms slung around my shoulders, my head on his chest. The rain had picked up, drumming against the window like impatient fingers. I answered on the fourth ring. "Alex," he said, voice steady but edged with something raw. "I'm on the road. Left Big Sur at sunrise. Be there by tonight." My breath caught. "You don't have to, I do." That call. It gutted me. 2 years, and you're still the voice in my head. Silence hung, heavy as the storm outside. "Portland's drowning in rain," I whispered, a weak deflection. "So am I," he replied. Click. The afternoon blurred into frantic preparation. Not for him, I told myself, but for survival. I sketched feverishly, charcoal smudging my fingers as lines bled into shapes of tangled limbs and unspoken promises. Lena dragged me to Powell's City of Books for distraction, weaving through towering shelves of queer lit and indie zines. "Look," she said, thrusting a dog-eared copy of Fun Home into my hands. "Alison Bechdel gets it. Family secrets, lost loves. You're not alone in this mess." Her words landed soft, a reminder of the chosen family we'd built amid Portland's vibrant underbelly. Poetry slams at local breweries, mutual aid cookouts in Laurelhurst Park. But as evening fell, the city's pulse quickened, food trucks firing up, cyclists dodging puddles, and dread coiled in my gut. What if he showed, and the spark reignited only to scorch us again? Twilight painted the sky bruise purple when headlights pierced my window. I peered out, heart slamming. A weathered Subaru, mud-splattered from the coastal drive, Jordan unfolding from the driver's seat. Taller than memory, his frame solid under a faded flannel, shaved head glistening with rain. He looked up, dark eyes locking on mine through the glass, and time fractured. I buzzed him up, door creaking open like a reluctant truth. He stepped in, dripping onto the welcome mat, duffel bag slung over one shoulder. "Hey," he said, voice a rumble that vibrated through me. Up close, the changes hit. A new scar on his jaw from some Big Sur hiking mishap, eyes deeper set with stories I hadn't heard. "Jordan," I breathed, stepping back to let him in, the air thick with unsaid words. He dropped the bag, gaze sweeping the loft, the half-finished canvases leaning against walls, the string lights casting golden halos over our shared history. A sketch of him, from months ago, stared back accusingly from the easel. "You kept drawing," he murmured, fingers tracing the edge. Couldn't stop. Heat flushed my cheeks, vulnerability cracking open. We stood there, inches apart, the rain a curtain sealing us in. Then, like gravity reclaiming its due, his hand found my waist, pulling me close. Our lips met, tentative, then desperate, tasting of salt and second chances. It was messy, real, the kind of kiss that mends fractures even as it risks new ones. When we broke, foreheads pressed, he whispered, "I never stopped missing you either." But romance isn't a straight line, especially not in our world. We crashed onto the couch, bodies entwining like we could rewrite the past with touch alone. His hands, calloused from coastal trail work, mapped my skin with reverence, murmuring affirmations against my neck. "You're enough, Alex, always were." I arched into him, chasing the warmth that had haunted my dreams, but doubt lingered like smoke. As the night deepened, tangled in sheets that smelled of us, Questions bubbled up. Why now? I asked, tracing the tattoo on his forearm. A phoenix rising, inked post-breakup. He sighed, propping on an elbow, mahogany skin glowing in the lamplight. Big Sur. It healed parts of me. Therapy, community hikes with other trans folks, building that tiny cabin by the ocean. I thought I was done with us. But your voice last night, it pulled me under like a riptide. We talked then, really talked, for the first time since the end. I confessed the therapy I'd started, unpacking my abandonment issues from a family that loved me in whispers but never fully saw my queerness. He shared the scars, a dead name slipped by an old friend during a visit, the isolation of transitioning far from home, laughter mixed with tears, the kind that cleanses. By morning, sunlight filtering through rain-streaked windows, we'd sketched a fragile map forward. No grand promises, just coffee runs and honest check-ins. Lena texted, alive? Or did he kidnap you for a rom-com sequel? I smiled, snapping a photo of Jordan dozing beside me, his face peaceful in repose. Yet Portland's charm couldn't hold forever. Whispers of our rekindling spread through our circles. Queer brunches at Screen Door, where Marcus Chun, Jordan's 35-year-old East Asian mentor from a Bay Area activist group, raised a knowing eyebrow over his matcha. Tread light, he advised Jordan over a video call, his voice steady from years of organizing trans visibility marches. Love's a revolution, but revolutions need strategy. Marcus had mentored Jordan through his early transition, connecting him to resources when bureaucracy bit hard. His words echoed as we navigated the honeymoon haze, stolen kisses in the Pearl District's galleries, my hand in his during a midnight showing of Moonlight at a local indie theater. But cracks spiderwebbed in. 2 weeks in, a freelance client bailed, leaving me staring at an empty fridge and mounting bills. Jordan noticed, of course, his empathy a quiet superpower. Let's get out, he said one drizzly evening, eyes alight. Road trip. Clear the fog. Destination, Big Sur, his sanctuary. I hesitated. Leaving Portland meant leaving my safety net, but the pull was magnetic. We packed light, Lena waving us off with a care package of tamales and a warning. Don't elope without me, Cabron. The drive south was a revelation. Interstate 5 giving way to Highway 101's coastal curves, windows down, indie folk crooning from the speakers. Jordan drove, one hand on the wheel, the other laced with mine, his thumb stroking circles that soothed my fraying nerves. We stopped in Eugene for vegan burgers at a co-op, trading stories of what-ifs. What if we'd met in college instead of that art crawl? What if the world hadn't made us fight so hard for this? By nightfall, we'd crossed into California, camping under redwoods in the Avenue of the Giants, stars piercing the canopy like promises. In the tent, bodies warm against the chill, he held me as I admitted the fear. What if I fuck this up again? His laugh was soft, lips brushing my temple. Then we fix it. Together. Big Sur welcomed us with wild abandon, crashing waves at Pfeiffer Beach, where purple sand shifted underfoot like shifting truths. Jordan led me to his cabin, a modest A-frame perched on cliffs, solar panels glinting in the sun. Inside, it smelled of pine and possibility. Bookshelves crammed with Audre Lorde and James Baldwin, a small altar of crystals from local healers. This is where I became me, he said, voice thick, showing me the spot by the window where he'd journaled through hormone milestones. We hiked the trails, hands brushing ferns heavy with mist, stopping at Esalin for a cliffside hot spring soak. There, steam rising around us, naked and unashamed, we bared more than skin. I ran because I thought you deserved steady, he confessed, water lapping at his chest. But steady without you? It's just surviving. Tears mixed with the mineral heat. I pushed you away because I was scared of needing you, I replied, fingers tracing his jaw scar. Like if I held on too tight, it'd break. The kiss that followed was salt-sweet, sealing vows unspoken. Days blurred into a rhythm. Morning yoga on the deck, me sketching the rugged coastline while he brewed tea from foraged herbs. Evenings cooking over a fire pit, grilled veggies and stories of his activist work, linking with indigenous queer networks along the coast. It felt like medicine, this space where our identities weren't footnotes, but centerfolds. But the world intrudes, always. Back in Portland after a week, reality crashed. A protest downtown against a new anti-trans bill snaking through Salem. Jordan's fire reignited. He'd been organizing remotely, but now, face-to-face with banners and chants, he threw himself in. I joined, Lena at my side, our voices rising in unity. No justice, no peace. Marcus flew up from the bay, his presence a rock, sharing strategies from past fights, his calm demeanor a counter to the chaos. Amid the march, Jordan gripped my hand, eyes fierce. "This is why I love you," he shouted over megaphones. "You show up." But adrenaline's edge cuts deep. That night, in the aftermath of tear gas haze and triumphant hugs, doubt crept back. A news alert on my phone. Family back home questioning my lifestyle in a group text. I spiraled, snapping at Jordan over nothing, a forgotten grocery run. The fight erupted in our loft, words like shrapnel. "You're pulling away again," he accused, voice breaking. "And you're smothering me with your savior complex." I hurled back, hating the lie even as it spilled. He stormed out, Subaru roaring into the night, leaving me curled on the floor, sobs racking my frame. Lena found me at dawn, brewing tea with trembling hands. "Call him," she urged, no judgment in her eyes. But pride held me back, until a text from Marcus. "He's at the river. Go." Love isn't a solo act. I drove to the Willamette, heart pounding, finding him on our old bench under the bridge, the site of our worst night. Rain had cleared, stars sharp overhead. He looked up, wrecked, as I sat. "I'm sorry," we said in unison, then laughed, the sound fragile. "I can't lose you again," he whispered, pulling me close. "Then don't," I replied, tears falling. "But we fight fair, and we lean on our people." We called Marcus and Lena on speaker, voices weaving a net. Plans for couples counseling at a queer center, boundaries for our scars. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours, raw, resilient. Months folded into a new normal. Portland bloomed with spring, cherry blossoms dusting our walks. My art show at Alberta Arts District Gallery sold out. Pieces born of us, fractured hearts mended in color. Jordan started a trans youth mentorship program, Marcus co-facilitating, Lena handling the zine arm. We traveled back to Big Sur for anniversaries, blending worlds. Mom visiting once, her tentative hug a bridge. Not every day was poetry. Arguments flared, insecurities nipped, but we chose each other, again and again. One evening, as summer fireflies danced in Laurelhist Park, Jordan knelt, not with a ring, but a sketchbook page, our hands intertwined, captioned "Forever's a Choice." "Marry my chaos?" he asked, eyes shining. "Only if you marry mine." I grinned, pulling him up. Our kiss under the oaks was a vow, not to perfection, but to the beautiful, brutal work of loving queer, loving loud. In a world that tries to dim us, we'd found our light. In each other, in community, in the courage to say, "I miss you," and mean stay. And so we did.